One Man's Family, brought to you by Fleischmann's Yeast. One Man's Family is dedicated to the mothers and fathers of the younger generation and to their bewildering offspring. Tonight we present Chapter 10, Book 43, entitled The Rest of the Night. Now, for a good many years, you friends of the Barber family have heard us sing the praises of tenderleaf tea and of royal puddings and gelatin desserts. And you've sung right along with us, because you've found by actual experience that there's no finer tea than rich, fragrant tenderleaf tea. And that no desserts ring the bell with your family quite the way royal puddings and gelatin desserts do. Well, from now on, we'll be telling you about Fleischmann's Yeast, another fine product made by the Standard Brand's people. And friends, we're going to like doing that, too. Particularly right now, when our government is doing so much to promote better diets for every family in the country. You see, Fleischmann's Yeast fits into this program perfectly because it's one of our richest natural vitamin foods. You'll be hearing more of that later. All I wanted to tell you now was that the Barber family has adopted Fleischmann's Yeast, and we sincerely hope that you will, too. Did you ever have a whole package of firecrackers suddenly start exploding under your feet? The stress and strain on the nervous system is considerable and emphatic. And that's exactly the condition of the barber's mental state under the multiple explosions up at the Sky Ranch, which have been bursting with increasing tempo since Hank and Pinky found the unconscious invader at the base of the precipice on the bank of the creek. This evening, the family was enjoying the moonlight on the front steps of the big farmhouse, discussing the pillage of the spring house, when Paul was called to the phone. It was the nurse, Mary Wagner, who had attended the injured man, saying that he had succumbed en route to the hospital. And in the midst of the reaction to this, out onto the porch crept Claudia's young daughter Joan in her night attire. She was disturbed by the fact that from her bed she'd seen a man running across the moonlit stubble field not far from the house. While Paul sharply questioned her, Nicky slipped away into the dark to notify members of Army intelligence on guard in the vicinity. And almost at once he came upon one of the guards supporting a fellow who had been knifed and who must be got to a hospital immediately. Well, Jack whipped the station wagon around front and headed down the mountain at breakneck speed with the wounded man in back still supported by his companion. That was 2 hours ago. A still alarm has gone out to all Army intelligence officers in the area, and Nicky and Clifford have been out with them because of their familiarity with the terrain. The rest of the barbers have been ordered to remain indoors and out of the way. Paul, only because of just getting out of the hospital himself and not up to the manhunt. And so at 11 o'clock at night, he's waiting with other members of the family for some further word. With him in Nicky's den are Father and Mother Barber, Claudia, Hazel, and Irene.
Yes.
Henry, for goodness sakes.
Hmm?
Well, you could at least put your hand over your mouth when you yawn.
That's the third yawn in the last 5 minutes, Dad. Why don't you and Mom go up to bed?
What time is it?
Can you see the clock, Hazel?
Yes.
7 minutes after 11.
Is that all? Goodness, I thought it was after midnight.
It's after my bedtime, I know that.
Sure it is. So why don't you and Mom go on up?
A lot of good it'll do me. Toss and turn and worry. How long is this business going to last anyway, Paul?
Oh, until they catch them all, I should imagine.
You mean Clifford and Nicholas may be out with those men all night?
It's not at all unlikely.
Goodness, then why are we sitting up like this?
Yes, I've been expecting them to check in any minute.
Well, they may, of course, but I think anyone who's waiting up for further news tonight is doing it under false hopes. Even if Cliff and Nicky do come in soon, they'll be dead tired and want to go right to bed.
Do you want to go up, Henry?
Do you?
Well, even if I couldn't sleep, I'd rest lying down.
You don't want to go up, Dad?
You go ahead, Fanny. I'll be up presently.
I'll wait a few minutes more if you're not going.
Besides, Jack isn't back yet. He's been gone 2 hours and a half.
Sure, he's had plenty of time to get to Palo Alto and back.
I'm glad Betty went to sleep before all this began. Wouldn't do her any good.
And she'd be plenty upset waiting for Jack. They were taking the wounded intelligence officer to the university hospital?
I imagine so.
I wish somebody put me straight on what actually happened out there. I was upstairs with Mother and Teddy, and when I got down, Father said Jack had taken a wounded man to the hospital, and Clifford and Nicky were out on a manhunt.
Well, that's about all there is.
But how did it all start?
Well, you knew Army intelligence has had men secreted about the ranch ever since we reported the spring house being raided.
Yes.
Well, apparently one or more of the invaders or saboteurs, whatever you want to call them, returned for reasons best known to himself. And...
The first he knew of anything out of the way was Joan coming down in her nightgown, saying she saw a man out in the moonlit field running crouched down.
Joan saw one of the enemy?
Apparently. Because almost immediately afterward, the guard was stabbed. Isn't that the way you get it, Paul?
Yes, the hunted man must have been circling the house. He had to cross the open field to get to the spring house. And...
You think that's what he was doing? Going back to the spring house for more supplies?
Well, he was heading in that direction.
Besides, why else would he be prowling around here?
Oh, yes, of course.
Anyway, Joan saw him as he crossed the field, and then after he got over the fence, he must have run into the guard waiting for him in the shadows.
Will you tell me why it was the guard who was stabbed if he was waiting for the enemy?
Well, I understand they've been trying to capture these fellows alive. One thing to waylay and shoot one of them on sight. It's quite another to capture them.
Well, what difference does it make whether they're dead or alive so long as they're out of the way?
No, I can understand that. If these people have a way of sneaking into this country, naturally the Army wants to know it. They want somebody alive to question.
Well, it seems to me they're going to extremes, letting our own men get stabbed.
Well, he wasn't ordered to capture the man at the expense of his own life. They'd much rather have had the man dead than not at all.
Well, apparently he did get away.
All the returns aren't in yet. What's become of Irene? Wasn't she in here with us?
Have you been sitting there with your eyes closed?
Huh?
She and Teddy went out half an hour ago.
You mean outdoors?
Oh, no, Dad. Out of the den here. They went upstairs to see a new dress Teddy brought down last week.
Is Teddy going to start to college this fall, Paul?
That girl.
Why do you say that, Mother?
Well, nobody knows what she's going to do.
Not even you, Paul?
Well, much as I wish she was, I'm pretty sure she's not going to college.
Oh, that's too bad.
Yeah, I think so, too. But this war has created such a turmoil of activity, such a pull on the imaginations of the young people, it's pretty hard to make them keep their nose to the grindstone.
Yes, I see that. Unless you can make them see the practical value of college and the all-out war effort.
Unfortunately, Teddy's knowledge of planes and flying is advanced enough to make her of real value, either to the women's army or to the naval group.
But she's too young, Paul. They don't want girls under 21.
Yeah, except in cases of specialized training. And they want anybody who can do a job that needs doing.
And you're not going to make an effort to keep her in school? Well, how long has this been going on? Why haven't I been told?
Now, Henry.
It's just as I always say. Nobody ever tells me anything anymore.
Poor father.
Well, it isn't anything that suddenly developed, Dad. This desire to get directly into the war effort's been a burning passion with Teddy ever since we got in. Even before Pearl Harbor, I think.
Yes. She talked a leg off me about becoming an ambulance driver or studying nursing so she could be sent to England or Egypt months before we were at war.
Teddy did that?
Isn't that queer? I never heard a word of it.
And a good reason why. I set my foot down. The idea of an 18-year-old girl getting the war fever like that wasn't right, and I told her so in no uncertain terms.
Well, you stopped her from talking, but you didn't kill her desire.
No, I can see I didn't.
Yeah. I'm going to miss her.
Goodness, Dad.
Huh?
You sound like she was going out of your life forever. Even if she does take on war work, there's no assurance that she's going to be away from home. Is there, Paul?
Well, if she's accepted by a regular Army or Navy unit, she'll go where she's sent.
Of course she will, and that'll be the end of Teddy for the duration as far as we are concerned.
Father, you make everything sound so final.
Do I indeed?
Ted, you take too morbid a view of it.
Huh?
Someone just came up on the front porch.
Yes, there's the screen door.
Oh, gee. Maybe it's Cliff and Nicky.
Hi, everyone's on the den?
It's Jack.
Yeah.
Here in the den, Jack.
Okay, coming right up.
Well, I'm glad he's back safely with us again.
What do you mean by that? Do you have any misgivings that he wouldn't be?
Well, was that a trip down the mountain? Anything new happened since I left?
Nothing new.
Well, what took you so long?
Oh, I waited around the hospital to get a report on the guard. He's quite a hero, you know that, don't you?
Hero?
Certainly. He got the guy who stabbed him, didn't he?
He did.
You did what?
Hey, you mean you folks didn't know that? Sure, it was a hand-to-hand battle with knives. Our man won.
The enemy agent's dead?
Yeah, we took him down the back of the station wagon with us.
Funny, nothing was said about him.
Well, I don't know. You suppose I wasn't supposed to say anything? Nobody said not to. They were talking about it at the hospital.
Jack, you mean to stand there and tell me that a man was killed right outside this house?
Oh, hey, Mom.
Mother, why don't you let me take you up to bed? Come on.
Yes, I think I will.
You want me, Fanny?
No, Father, you stay down if you want to. Come on, Mother.
Yes. Good night, everyone.
Good night, baby.
Good night, Mom.
Yeah, I'm sorry I said all that in front of Mom, but it never occurred to me that you didn't already know about it. Well, where's Nicky?
He and Cliff are out with more of the intelligence men.
General manhunt, huh?
I guess so.
Hey, what do you mean about the wild ride down the mountain, Jack?
Boy, you know what that road is. Well, that station wagon might as well have been a bicycle for all the wheels we used. Zip, zip, zip. The horn going all the time to warn anyone coming up the mountain.
Was that necessary?
All I know is the intelligence officer with me said every second counted, knifed the way the wounded man was. We got him there in plenty of time, though.
Good.
Sure burned some rubber off your tires, old Claude.
Uh-huh. Say, look, Paul. If the wounded officer killed the man Jones saw, then what are Cliff and Nicky and the others out doing?
Well, looks like on the trail are still others.
But how many do you suppose there are?
Haven't any idea.
Hey, look, Claude, I don't want to raid the icebox, but do you suppose I could find myself a glass of milk and
Oh, of course,
bread?
Jack.
Oh, sit still. I can get
Oh,
it.
don't be silly. I'll be right back.
Thanks, Val.
Don't mention it.
Any word out of Betty?
Not a peep.
Yeah, I didn't think she'd wake up while I was gone. Hey, do you think Mom will be all right, Dad?
Yes, I expect so.
She didn't used to be so easily upset. I keep forgetting.
Yes. None of us is as young as we used to be.
Uh-huh. Well, as soon as I've had a bite to eat, I think I'll go out and see whether I can't join Cliff and Nicky.
No, that's not such a hot idea.
You don't think so?
No, there are men out there prowling around the dark with Tommy guns. Best thing a civilian can do is keep in out of the way.
Yeah, I suppose so. Hey, here's something interesting. On the way to the hospital, the wounded guard was talking to his sidekick. He said when the fella came over the fence and spotted him in the shadow, he whispered, "Is that you, Jan?"
Huh? Who?
Jan. Jan. Is that you, Jan? The wounded guard thinks he was hanging around the house here to meet somebody.
Well, that's ridiculous.
We had it figured out that he'd come back for another raid on the spring house.
No, neither one of the guards thought that.
Well, there's no one around this house named Jan.
Well, that's how it's sizing up. You know what I think?
Huh?
Apparently these men are searching for their companion who fell off the precipice at the creek.
Hey, you think he might have been Jan?
Well, looks likely, doesn't it?
In that case, we were wrong in assuming that they scattered after landing on the coast with the idea of meeting at some safer destination further inland.
Yeah, maybe they underestimated our ability to defend ourselves against such infiltrations as this.
Yeah, smart guys. Oh, Claude, that's swell.
Glass of nice cold milk and a fried egg sandwich.
Oh, boy, does that smell good. Oh, but you shouldn't have bothered.
Oh, who said it was a bother? Oh, Dad, where are you going?
Yeah, I think I've had enough for tonight.
You're going up to bed?
Yeah, you'll excuse me. Good night.
Good night, Dad.
Good night. I think he's going up on account of Mom.
Mm-hmm. Every day he seems sweeter and more gentle toward her.
Yeah. I hope I'm that way with Betty in 45 years.
Oh, that's really looking ahead, Jack. Wait. Listen.
What'd you hear?
Nothing, I guess. I'm just on edge.
You should be much better off in bed yourself.
Was Nicky out there? I should say no. I do wish they'd give it up for the night, though, and come on in. Wonder what Teddy and Irene are doing. They've been up in Teddy's room over half an hour.
Well, you certainly jumped from one thing to another. What have Teddy and Irene got to do with it?
Well, Cliff's out there, too. Just occurred to me whether Irene had the jumps.
The only reason you're nervous is because you're worn out. Danger seemed more alarming to you at this time of night.
All I know is that desperate men are out there, and Nicky's out there looking for them.
Oh, there are men to take care of that. Nicky and Cliff are merely guides.
Listen.
It's Teddy and Irene. They're coming downstairs.
Oh.
Goodness, do you suppose everybody's gone to bed? I hope not.
Hi.
Oh, Jack, are you back?
As you can very plainly see.
What about Clifford? He hasn't come in yet.
That's it. It shouldn't be long, though, I imagine.
You aren't nervous about it?
Not in the least.
Aren't you, Claudia? I mean about Nicky.
Oh, what good would that do? Besides, Nicky and Cliff are grown men, quite capable of looking after themselves.
Well, I wasn't really worried until we came downstairs just now. I kind of thought I sensed something when we came in the room. It frightened me.
You are sensitive to moods, aren't you?
Am I? I didn't know it.
Yes, we heard something, and we were listening. Turned out to be you and Teddy coming downstairs.
Oh.
For goodness sakes, what were you two doing upstairs all this time?
Oh, looking at my clothes. Oh, is Teddy's new outfit scrumptious? Golly.
Yes, I've seen it.
Oh, why didn't you tell me Louis Adamick's new book was dedicated to you?
Hey, what'd you say, Teddy?
Oh, yes, look. It's dedicated to Paul.
Why, I didn't even know he had a new book out.
Just out last week.
What the heck's the name of it? What's your name? Huh? What's your name?
That's it.
Here, may I see it a minute, Teddy?
Mm-hmm.
Thanks. What's Your Name by Louis Adamick, also the author of From Many Lands and My America.
But what's the idea behind that name, Paul?
Oh, read the little blurb on the jacket, Claudia.
Blurb? Oh, yes. Louis Adamick discusses a question which vitally affects the happiness of millions of Americans who bear foreign-sounding names. Whether to change or not to change. The reasons for and against. Who should and who should not.
Oh, I get it.
But, Paul, you haven't answered my question. You gave me the book to read, and you didn't say a word about the dedication.
Oh, I thought you'd get a thrill out of finding it for yourself.
Gee, that's swell, Paul.
Yeah, some bunkins. Can I touch you?
What's that for?
Imagine having a book by an author like Louis Adamick dedicated to you. That puts you clear up on the top shelf for my money.
Is he really as nice and sympathetic as his books sound, Paul?
Oh, yeah. He's a real humanitarian. He's just about dedicated his life to other people's problems.
Guess that's how he impressed me on his last trip out here.
The thing that interests me so much is that he's not only doing an intelligent service for individuals and groups, but he's doing a fine thing for the country itself. His adopted country.
He was Yugoslav, wasn't he?
Yes. He got over here just in time to become a citizen and fight in World War I.
I'd very much like to read What's Your Name. I've read all his others.
I'd like very much to have you. When Teddy's finished, we'll pass it along.
Oh, yes, it won't take me long.
Next after Claudia.
Of course, we could buy copies of our own, you know.
Yeah, I never thought of that.
There they are.
Yeah. Anyway, somebody.
Was that the front screen door?
Yeah.
Nicky, is that you?
Hey, everybody awake?
Oh, it's Cliff.
Are you all right, Clifford?
You bet I am. And take a look at a jungle bum if you ever saw one.
Hey, what happened to you?
Where's Nicky?
Do you mind if I sit down? He's okay, Claude.
But your clothes are torn and you're dirty.
No kidding. That's what comes of scrambling through mountain brush at midnight. Hey, has somebody been eating?
Yeah, just finished a fried egg sandwich and a glass of milk.
Why, you dogging me with a stomach that's been talking to itself for the last 2 hours.
Oh, of course. What am I thinking about? Look, I've got coffee all made. Would you like some of that while I make up sandwiches? Or tea, if you like.
Make it coffee.
Okay. Right away.
Come on, Irene. Maybe we can help. Just a minute while I hug my man.
Hey, you get yourself all over with dirt. This scenery rubs off.
As though I care. I'm glad to have you here where I can get my arms around you again.
Now look at you. Smudge a mountain leaf mold on the end of your nose.
Pooh, I'll wash off. Come on, Teddy. Sure.
And make those sandwiches thick. No tea party fixins'.
Any luck?
No.
Were you on their trail or just combing the underbrush?
We started out on a good scent, I think. At least that was my impression. Although those intelligence officers didn't say so. Boy, are they close-mouthed. And tough.
Tough, huh?
Oh, are they? I slipped on a steep place in the dark and grabbed hold of the man next to me. Man, my hair stood right up in the back of my head. Thought I had a hold of a steel spring. Talk about Superman.
You say you started out on a scent?
Yeah, but we lost it. After that, it was just a matter of trying to cover a lot of territory fast in the hopes of flushing them out again.
Which is an impossible job.
That's the way it turned out, but it had to be tried.
Well, there was definitely more than one of them around tonight, though. I mean, more than the one who stabbed the guard and got himself killed for his trouble.
That's pretty certain. Oh, by the way, what happened to the guard?
Oh, we got him to the hospital in plenty of time. He's going to be okay.
Oh, that's swell. Nicky was afraid for him. You know, he helped bring him in.
Yeah. Oh, he'll be okay.
What about it, Cliff? Are you still planning a return to the dairy ranch tonight?
Oh, heck no. I had Hazel call Dan Murray and make other arrangements before Nicky and I went out.
Oh, didn't know that.
But what happens now? I mean, what's the next move to get the rest of these fugitives?
Who knows?
Well, we'll continue to search the hills, of course, but I imagine it'll be fairly quiet until our quarry makes another break from cover.
Yeah, which they're bound to do sooner or later, either for food or in the hopes of reaching a safer hiding place further inland.
And we're still going to be sitting up here on dynamite?
Well, I suppose we could all load ourselves into our cars and go back to San Francisco, if we so desire.
Coffee for a weary, willing worker.
Ah, Teddy, beautiful, gracious Hebe herself.
Hey, what's that you're calling Teddy?
Hey, you don't know Hebe, the cupbearer to the gods?
Oh, Hebe. Only be careful what you call her. She's a good friend of mine.
Well, since when have you started looking after my interest, Cliff? Oh, cream or sugar?
Oh, no thanks, not a thing. What are Claude and Irene doing?
Oh, making a heap of sandwiches. They'll be in a minute. Oh, where have you been, Hazel?
Oh, what is this, a party? Oh, Cliff, are you finally in?
Yeah, back and glad of it.
Where's Nicky?
He'll be along pretty soon.
Get Mom and Dad settled for the night?
Well, I got Mother pretty well tucked in, and then Father came in, and I had to leave.
Mom's all right?
Oh, sure. She was just tired, mostly. She had a warm, relaxing bath and got into bed, and I was reading to her when Father interrupted us. By the way, Paul, did you see this article in the New Yorker?
I don't know.
Well, it's in last week's issue, but I didn't see it till now. This lead article in the Talk of the Town. Something that should be said over and over again in every corner of this country.
Hey, it must be pretty good if you like it that much.
I like it tremendously. Here, Paul.
Can't wait for a lady with the sandwiches. You coming, Claudia?
Yes, I'm right behind you, Irene.
Man, oh man, can I sink my fangs into those goodies. Boy, set them down right here.
Hey, where are the good old barber table manners?
The heck with table manners. When a barber's famished, he rips his sandwiches limb from limb and throws the bones over his shoulder.
Clifford, you've got egg on your nose.
That's nothing. I'll be up to my ears in a minute.
Yeah, they do look pretty good at that.
Get your fingers out of that plate of sandwiches.
You wouldn't let me have just one?
I'll bite the arm off the first blood relation as so much as makes a move in this direction.
Old Wolf Barber, they call him. Here, please take this napkin and wipe the drippings off your chin.
Don't believe it, Cliff. Just a few crumbs.
Hey, look, Hazel, don't let my feeding interfere with what you were saying.
Oh, did we interrupt something?
Oh, it's an article out of the New Yorker. You've probably seen it, but I want Paul to read it because everyone should hear it. Have you seen it before, Paul?
Yes, and I quite agree with you.
Well, go ahead, Paul. What is it?
Well, it's in the August 22nd issue of the New Yorker's Talk of the Town column. It's under Notes and Comment. It says, treason is too narrowly interpreted to suit us. Our courts call it treason when a restaurant keeper helps a German flyer to escape, but nobody calls it treason when a congressman helps a touchy issue to escape until after the elections are over. We hang a man for the first kind of treason. We re-elect a man for the second. This is the summer of all summers when the world will learn just how far treason can go and still stay clear of the noose. This is the summer when time is the most precious thing there is, more precious than rubber or metal or men. Yet some of our political leaders are throwing time around as though it were confetti. Who is the greatest traitor anyway? A man with a German flyer concealed in his cellar, or a man with a national issue buried in his portfolio?
Hey, that's all right.
Yes, isn't it?
It's not only treacherous to help the enemy by postponing questions which involve the lives of all of us, but it's the greatest insult that can be offered to the electorate of a democracy. When you hear it announced that such and such an issue cannot be raised now because it's political dynamite, the implication is that you yourself are mixed up in a cheap trick perpetrated by one section of the people on another section. This doesn't happen to be a summer when we feel like being insulted. We happen to be a little edgy this summer. We won't take much more of that sort of insult.
Hey, that's the best thing I've heard yet.
You know, I've heard a lot of conversation like that privately, but never in print before.
Well, it's time it was in print. It's time it was broadcast to the furthest corners of this country. Elections are coming along this November, and believe me, I'm going to look very closely into the records and activities of every man for whom I cast my vote.
And you can just count me in on that.
The man who wrote that article has a real punch in the nib of his pen. He's good.
Well, he's put my feelings into words, I know that.
Yeah, I want to get a copy of that. I know some people who ought to read it. Hey, where you going, Claude?
I'm going out on the porch for a minute. I saw a light moving out on the road. Might be Nicky.
I'll go along.
Well, you haven't finished, Cliff.
I'll bring this last sandwich with me.
If you wish. Come on.
Yeah, I do wish. I want to see you alone for a minute.
Cliff, is anything the matter?
No. Come on out on the porch.
What is it, Cliff?
Here. Nicky sent me back to the house with this note for you. He said to give it to you privately.
That's queer. Do you know what it is?
No idea. Here, read it. It's just a folded paper. Oh, you want me to turn on the porch light?
No, there's enough light in the hall. Oh, gee.
Huh?
She's gone.
Gone.
It just says, this pertains to government business. Don't expect me back until you see me.
Hey, he didn't give me any ideas. Is there anything else?
Just, darling.
Oh.
That's all. Darling.
Often that we find Mother and Father Barber alone, but sure enough, here they are up in Mother Barber's sewing room. Father Barber is reading the evening paper while Mother's mending.
Well, this is certainly encouraging.
What's that, Henry?
The way everyone's going in for the government's plan to improve the country's health. I tell you, Fanny, America has got to be strong and healthy if we're to win this war.
Now, you're dead right about that, sir, and we Americans are fast learning how to toughen up, how to become strong and healthy. Yes, through the teaching of proper nutrition and the importance of vitamins, great things have been accomplished in a short time. And I like to feel that Fleischmann's yeast is playing a part in helping to increase the well-being of many Americans. You see, a great deal of vitamin deficiency, especially vitamin B complex deficiency, has been noted in every income group. And so that's where Fleischmann's fresh yeast comes into the picture. Fleischmann's fresh yeast with the yellow label is available to anyone for just a few pennies, and yet it's one of the richest sources of vitamin B complex. Not only that, but it contains added amounts of vitamins A and D. So, friends, when you mix Fleischmann's fresh yeast with tomato juice to make what we call the vitamin cocktail, you've got yourself a delicious vitamin drink that contains every vitamin known to be needed in human nutrition. And 2 vitamin cocktails give you the daily minimum requirements of vitamins A, B1, C, and D, and a good supply of all the vitamins in the B complex group. But let me point out one thing. Even the vitamin cocktail can't work miracles overnight. But if you need extra vitamins and you stick with it, you can expect results in just 1 short week. So buy 14 cakes of Fleischmann's yeast at a time. It'll keep perfectly in your refrigerator. And then drink it twice a day in tomato juice for 7 days straight. Yes, drink it, America. To your health. You have just heard Chapter 10, Book 43 of One Man's Family, written especially for the makers of Fleischmann's Fresh Yeast by Carlton E. Morse. Chapter 11, entitled The Future Plans of Claudia, will come to you next Sunday at this same hour. One Man's Family comes to you through the courtesy of the makers of Fleischmann's Fresh Yeast.
Mother, for a real summertime treat tomorrow, serve your family Royal Butterscotch Pudding. Be sure to get Royal, because that's the kind most folks prefer. In a recent test, it was voted better in 5 important ways. And Royal saves sugar, too. One Man's Family comes to you from California. This is the National Broadcasting Company.